our clock is clicking and our kids are growing too, so shall we start with infants, obesity prevention among infants? Now I'm going to talk about obesity prevention among toddlers and young children. So my study is about mothers' decision in feeding their children. As we know, mothers play a huge role in feeding their children and shape up their eating habits. So we think obesity prevention should start earlier at any stage from infant and to the young kids. So the purpose of the study is to employ the decision-making theory, which is in my study called a multi-attribute utility model, as a theoretical framework to examine mothers' decision-making process in their food choices for their children, and also provide a guideline for the intervention. So how people make decisions for their lifestyles, and we talk about education is very important. If people don't know, they don't know what to do. And if they know whether they have intention to do something, but the question for us is, do you think that if people know what to do and they intend to do, and that it directly to their action, behavior? That is very simple. If we all know what to do, if we all intend to do, and the whole world is perfect, right? And we don't need doctor, we don't need health educators, and we all know what we do, and we do it. So things are not that simple. And we found out people know a whole lot. And then they said, you know, I have no problem. And denial. And even people make big plans. And I want to do, this is my New Year resolution. I want to do this. I'm going to eat healthy, do more physical activity. But on a daily basis, what do we do? And I found myself always do something against my will. So, and what's going on? And we'll see people, everybody doing something according to their own judgment, and they make choices. So what's our judgment? What's our choice? And just look at the guy here, and doing physical activities, work out. We use the word work out. And it seems like we have to work on something to keep us fit. But eating is pleasure. So eating is our nature, but work out is against our nature. And it's tiring. It can get us hurt. So we constantly fight against ourselves. And eating is pleasure. And when we eat too much, and we feel guilty. When we don't eat, we feel regret. So we constantly fight against our own self. So my study tried to using the decision-making theory, as I said. So the multi-attribute utility model is really trying to figure out people's decision-making from the cognitive process, and also include people's feeling. We know the eating is always very personal, and they have attached with emotion. For the decision-making model, there's a three aspects. We think, just now we said, people not only doing things based upon good and bad, also want to see whether things can happen, the good things and the bad things will happen. And especially for obesity, for eating, for the health-related behavior, people also think, what is the priority for me now? So let me zoom these three parameters, three aspects of decision-making to see whether it makes sense to all of us. So the first parameter is subjective value. From the previous slides, we see the mathematical formula. So the multi-attribute utility, which means for each behavior, for each action we choose, there's a multiple aspect people are thinking about. Our brain is how to say, genetically wired brilliantly. Sometimes we do things, we don't think we make any decision, but actually this mystery black box is very super. And then we make decisions very fast based upon all we learned from infant until now. And we didn't realize sometimes, become a habit. But actually there's decision making in the process. We sit in the car. You said we put on the seat belt right here, right? Do you think that's a decision or just a habit? You can argue about it. It's a habit, but there's a decision making process there because we learn. We know if we don't put on seat belt, and when we drive out, if the policeman there what the consequences take it. Or if we unfortunately have a car crash, another consequence is you get hurt. So all these things we learned, but it's decision-making process, we know that. Well, I just came back from China and Taiwan. I found a lot of people don't put a seatbelt. It's not only the habit, it's really that you don't know the consequences. Until you learn the consequences, you get some lesson learned, then it's, okay, the seatbelt is the first thing before I drive. Okay? So with that said, the value is people think it's good things to put on seatbelt, and the bad things will happen if I don't put on seatbelt. There's a positive sign and negative sign. Means the bad consequences, good consequences. For each action you take, there's a multiple. That's the reason we call it multiple attributes utility. Okay? So come back to the health behavior. There's consequences about drinking, unhealthy eating. You drink, the positive consequences become social, you're more lively, you enjoy the taste, you enjoy the buzz, but the bad consequences, you have hangover, and if you drink more, you might, drunk driving, get injured. Risk of that. So there's a positive, negative consequences about the drinking the behavior. Just one behavior, there's multiple consequences. And we know that, and we make a decision. And today I said I don't drink because I'm driving. People knows. And somebody probably not strong. Okay, I drink a little bit, then they start to more and more and more, and then with the drive, and then the accident happens. Okay. Enjoy the taste of food. Yes, we all like to have good taste, but sometimes good food, very tasty food has what? Oil, sugar, and fat. That makes the food tasty. So when we eat food, we are enjoy the taste, or we are thinking about healthy. So there are multiple consequences there. And how do we ask the questions? Is we have a list of consequences. We don't want to overlap the consequences. We only choose the consequences that are independent to each other. There's a health domain, social domain, and interpersonal domain. So we want to see which consequences really counts more at the time and the moment of the decision was made. So for example, the consequences of having more friends is very good or very bad when you're drinking alcohol. Another example, if I eat junk food, the consequences of enjoy the taste, of course, is very good. Junk food usually have more oil, sugar, and salt. However, people might think the bad consequences of junk food is health, the risk of obesity and heart disease, right? So there's a positive and negative. So that's an example of this subjective value. Keep in mind, subjective is only to yourself. Of course, the objective is different, the reality. Some people keep the reality, some people lost the reality. So that's the problem we have. And that's we always have a doctor around, keep us in the reality when we have a problem. The second parameter is subjective probability. And in a simple word is likelihood. How likely each consequence will happen. In the previous slides we mentioned, there's good and bad consequences attached to each choice, action we made, we choose. But people also think, how likely the consequence will happen? If I eat one piece of slice of pizza or one little chunk of brownie, how likely I will risk obesity? Probably won't matter, right? But people forget sometimes accumulation of pieces. And that's the reason we can't really do the math sometimes. We said, 1 piece and 1 pound each year. I gain 1 pound each year, not big deal. Our weight fluctuates. But if you keep gaining 1 pound a year in 20 years, what will happen? So we can imagine we have a big fat belly and we can rest our arms on the belly, right? That's very, very convenient. So that's the math we have to calculate. I think sometimes people don't think about cognitively how serious it is. So this parameter asks people how likely you think you have more friends when you drink, and how likely you will get drunk, and then how likely you will risk your life when drunk driving, and how likely you think your children will enjoy the taste of food if they eat junk food. And sometimes maybe not, and sometimes yes. Okay. So without this parameter, probably we won't really understand people, because just good and bad, not enough. We have to see what people believe, how likely the consequences they think will happen. So example for this one, we using the same consequences as we using the value, but we ask in a different way. We ask people, how likely if I drink alcohol, the consequences of having more friends to you will most likely happen to occur or not? If more likely to, if I drink alcohol, I think having friends is good, and the consequences of having friends more likely to happen, I will drink. Otherwise, why I bother? Like we go to Las Vegas, how likely you can get rich? Of course not, right? It's lose money. That's the reason Las Vegas keeps the most of the money. And the likelihood is to lose the money, but we enjoyed it. So that's the reason we all sit here, we work very hard on our way, and to earn our salary to pay the bill. Nobody think we rely upon our luck in Las Vegas to get big bills from there. So the likelihood is very low to get rich. That's the reason we all work very hard. So that's just an example. And how likely you think kids will enjoy a good taste of the food if you eat junk food? If not, then why bother? And we just eat healthy food. That's the reason we sometimes say, I eat salad, I still feel hungry. And I want to eat some food that satisfies my craving. So that's likely I'll be happy to eat that food. So that's the reason I choose that food rather than salad and other healthy food. Okay? People knows. It's not that I eat the unhealthy food, I want to get obesity and I want to risk a heart disease. But at the moment, so that's now we come to the momentary seedings. So momentary seedings is a new parameter I and my colleagues developed based upon the original decision-making model, because we found original decision-making model mostly used by psychology and bioeconomics, and that's the reason one of the psychologists got the Nobel Prize in 2003, and they think people make decisions in a rational way, but once come to the health and recreational aspect, people sometimes lost the rational and the irrational. They just go with the feeling, go with the emotion. Go with a moment. I enjoy that with pleasure. So we believe that people know what to do, but at the moment, what is most important? I walk in the restaurant, I decide, before I go to the restaurant, I decide I want to eat healthy. But once I walk in the restaurant, then I found people's plate, and it looks better, the food, wow, Danny has better food. And Laura's food smells good. So I just say, okay, I want to have that, I want to have that. I forgot my salad. So that's the parameter tells us momentary. At this situation and this time, eat brownie, eat other food is more important than health. Okay, so so this parameter tells us that health is really moment. And once in the situation, I forgot the rational. And I think this parameter is very important for us to understand people's behavior, knowledge, intention, and the moment of the decision. So how can we measure this? It's again, the consequences are the same, but we ask whether the consequences is important for you now or today, at the moment. So the study design, we have 3 groups. Intervention group 1, we're using PDA, and we're using camera, we're using survey. We collected multiple different kinds of data. We will try to see whether group 1, we're using the PDA and the camera, and plus other regular survey will be different compared to other groups. So while we're using the camera, we found out if we just ask people what do you eat, probably sometimes people want to make themselves feel good. They report they eat healthy, but sometimes they don't. So when they take a picture of their food, they can't really cope with different food. So we found out participants, the answer is different from their pictures. We not try to be policemen, but we want to verify our data is accurate. And we told a participant, why you report this, but meantime your picture is different? And the participant, oh, they know that we check on them. We said, we try to just want to get accurate data. It's not only for you, for your children, but also for people like you. For experimental group 2, we ask them just answer the PDA without pictures. And for experimental group 3, only control group, they only answer the big survey at the beginning of the 10 weeks and also at the end of it. And here, we really work very, very hard to collect data. We want to thank you, Dr. Getzman. We collect data from his office, and he gave us a lot of support and also medical advice. So I will go very quickly. So using PDA to collect data is a new way to collect data. I think people knows, but it's more accurate than repeated measure, and then we can have the pattern of the behavior rather than just one time, because we have a 24 hours recall and 3 days meals, and we think that sometimes that won't really reflect the pattern of people's eating pattern. So, and this is the slide tells us, if you want to ask a man or woman on this up here, right now, man and woman happiness are the same, but 3 months later, man's feeling is much lower than women, because we know man and women is different. Women about to eat, they still think about, okay, you said some bad thing to me, I'm going to get back to you. Man, this is over, it's over. So I'm not saying women's not good, okay? So, however, you can see the difference. If you ask a question later, and then they are thinking, they are feeling, is different. So we have to ask the question right here. So that's the reason data collection using the we call e-health, m-health is using PDA, using smartphones, very important to record people's feeling, eating behavior right there is more accurate. So this is a study we done. I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to share with you slides, and we have 106 participants, and we take the pictures here. We have breakout of people who are interested in 108. We're going to show you in more details. These pictures we have plates and the rulers. Then our measurement, just now I mentioned, we have 10 consequences we ask the moms, and of course based on the 10 consequences they choose. And the preliminary findings is we find out there's a difference in the high MU scores and then less unhealthy food. And we are working on the group differences. We found group differences, but the direction is a little weird. So we are not ready to present today, but we're going to present later. And you can see the slope. So high MU scores and the low unhealthy eating. So which is good. And also we found happiness, enjoyment, and the tiredness to cook is more important for mom. So to make kids happy and enjoy the food and preparing food is a more important consequences. So to enclose my speech is knowledge, intention, and health food choices. They are all very important. So knowledge is not enough, intention is not enough. We really have to understand how people's decision-making process is. So we want to make sure mom has anticipated values, likelihood, and make the right decision at the moment of the choice.